රිවයින් කරන්න පුළුවන් නිසා මුකුත් මගේ වෙන්නේ.
BOTV TV බලන හොඳම විදිහ.
Good evening. Making headlines first at 9. Historic summit. US President Donald Trump's North Korean gamble ends with special bond with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un today.
We're both very honored to sign the document.
Backbenchers in. The number of ministers in the current unity government goes up to 86, with new appointments of state and deputy ministers. Public must work for it. Minister Harin Fernando says citizens should move away from a dictatorship mentality to achieve a sense of mature democracy in the country.
Sri Lanka is still used to a dictator mentality, and that's why they think even Gotabaya is the best dictator to come and take this country forward.
Plans for the future. Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna reveals its priorities under a new government set up by them.
We would like to say that in the near future, when a government of President Mahinda Rajapaksa is formed, there are three things to which we will give priority. One is we will bring back Arjuna Mahendra.
Identifying loopholes. Tourism Development Minister John Amaratunga says the workforce in the tourism industry is not sufficient to meet the demand.
The demand that we are going to have for the industry services not sufficient.
Handshakes and history shaped a new milestone in world politics and diplomacy today as US President Donald Trump and North Korean leader Kim Jong-un shook their hands in unison as friends. And that's where we begin tonight's broadcast. I'm Indivari Amuatha on First at 9. Enemies since the North Korean War between 1950 and 1953, leaders of North Korea and the United States have never met previously or even spoken on the telephone. This was the first time in history where leaders of these two nations met face to face. As the entire world was watching, the two former foes, who for months called each other names and didn't see eye to eye, held their landmark summit and even signed a joint statement on shared common interests for their diplomatic relations to be nurtured. At the conclusion of the day's events, which the US president said were successful, the North Korean leader, who was once considered a dictator, said that the two leaders had decided to leave the past behind and that the world will see unprecedented change.
US President Donald Trump and North Korean leader Kim Jong-un appeared cautious and serious when they first arrived at the Capella Hotel on Singapore's Sentosa Resort Island for the landmark summit today. But when cameras of the world's press trained on them, they displayed an initial atmosphere of bonhomie as they met on the veranda of the Capella. Body language experts said both men tried to project command as they met, but also displayed signs of nerves. They, however, then shook the historic handshake which the entire world talked about today and were soon seen smiling and holding each other by the arm before Trump guided Kim to the library where they held a meeting with only their interpreters. Inside, they sat alongside each other against a backdrop of North Korean and US flags, with Kim beaming broadly as the US president gave him a thumbs up. After initial exchanges lasting around 40 minutes, Trump and Kim emerged walking side by side through the colonnaded hotel before entering a meeting room where they were joined by their most senior officials. Trump was joined by US Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, National Security Advisor John Bolton, and White House Chief of Staff John Kelly for the expanded talks, while Kim's team included former Military Intelligence Chief Kim Yong-chol, Foreign Minister Ri Yong-ho, and Vice Chairman of the ruling Workers' Party Ri Soo-yong. As the two leaders met, Singapore Navy vessels and Air Force Apache helicopters patrolled, while fighter jets and Gulfstream 550 early warning aircraft circled. After the meetings, the two teams and other senior officials joined in for a lunch with a mixture of Western and Korean flavors were served. It was then time for the most important event of the day, the signing of the momentous agreement between the two countries. The agreement, which the US president called a comprehensive document, was mainly focused on the denuclearization of the Korean peninsula and security guarantees to North Korea by the United States.
So we're signing a very important document, pretty comprehensive document, and we've had a really great term together, a great relationship on behalf of Chairman Kim and myself. And we're both very honored to sign the document. Thank you.
The document, however, gave few details on how wide the goal would be achieved, which drew criticism from many political analysts. Trump, meanwhile, said he expected the denuclearization process to start very, very quickly. He also said Kim had told him North Korea was destroying a major engine testing site used for missiles, but maintained international sanctions on Pyongyang would stay in place for the moment. Meanwhile, many Asian countries, including China, which built the foundation for the summit to take place along with Japan, Malaysia and Singapore, welcomed the newly formed friendship between US and North Korea. South Korea, meanwhile, reported to be the most relieved with these developments, which signifies patching of the rift between the three nations following the Korean War between 1950 to 1953.
저도 어제 잠 못 이루는 밤이었습니다. 우리에게 완전한 비핵화와 평화, 남북미 간의 새로운 시대를 열어주는 성공적인 회담이 되기를 국민들과 함께 간절히 바랍니다.
Following conclusions of the historic summit, US President Donald Trump later held a media briefing regarding the landmark meeting today.
My meeting with Chairman Kim was honest, direct, and productive. We got to know each other well in a very confined period of time, under very strong circumstance. Chairman Kim and I just signed a joint statement in which he reaffirmed his unwavering commitment to complete denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula. We also agreed to vigorous negotiations to implement the agreement as soon as possible. Chairman Kim has told me that North Korea is already destroying a major missile engine testing site. We're prepared to start a new history, and we're ready to write a new chapter between our nations. Anyone can make war, but only the most courageous can make peace.
Meanwhile, experts say that the historic meeting between US President Donald Trump and North Korean leader Kim Jong-un sets out an example for other countries to unilaterally pursue strategies of negotiating with other nations. Furthermore, analysts say that this would pave the way towards the creation of a new world order with the Asian region in the forefront.
This kind of meeting sets out an example that countries could unilaterally pursue strategies of negotiating with other countries to try and create some sort of discussion without necessarily coordinating their responses. This summit meeting was the outcome of by the US, by China, and also to a certain extent by South Korea as well. But arguably these sort of strategies of each country were not very coordinated, and they did not go through a multilateral forum, UN forum, or through G7. And this might set a precedent in future incidents in global politics where countries might seek to employ similar unilateral strategies and hope that perhaps other countries would just see the gaps and put things in place. But that's a big if. That's a bit of a dangerous precedent.
Vaidya Tilaka went on to say that the significant outcome of the summit is the de facto recognition of North Korea as a nuclear state.
Implicitly, the US, by meeting with the head of state of North Korea, is sort of recognizing North Korea as a country that possesses nuclear weapons. And even though there might be no formal acceptance of that in a treaty as such, this is again a freezing of the status quo. North Korea, which largely until now was considered a sort of pariah state, a China proxy, is now autonomously taking itself out as an independent autonomous nuclear weapon state.
Meanwhile, speaking to First at 9, Director General of Institute of National Security Studies, Asangabe Gunasekara, said that the meeting paves the way for creation of a new world order led by Asia.
From the beginning, I predicted that this would happen, and the meeting did happen. And it's a good thing, because we're looking at Kim Jong-un 34 years, and so he's looking at new ways of looking at the world order and probably President Trump, the mix between the two leaders. And so they got it. And they also questioned, I mean, President Trump has quoted about creating moving out of the old model of diplomacy and, bringing the North Korean to be sort of getting them to be part of the world order. Even yesterday at the SCO, Shanghai Cooperation Organization, President Xi is talking also about a new world order. And it's a time for Asia. Even the BRI, Belt and Road Initiative, definitely projects that will give a huge advantage to Asia and Asian nations. And Sri Lanka is also part of the BRI, which will definitely benefit Sri Lanka.
And here at home, President Maithripala Sirisena today declared open the reconstructed and developed Eastern Bank conservation of the East Bay Link and the Linear Park. The program was implemented by the Urban Development Authority under its project to develop the water surfaces of the city of Colombo.
The development of the Eastern Bank conservation of the East Bay Lake and the Linear Park along Bay Lake are done with the assistance of the World Bank under the Metropolitan Colombo Urban Development Project.
අපි ඒ බේරේ වටේ හිටපු ජනතාව කිසිම විරෝධයකින් තොරව පෙළපාලි වලින් තොරව පැහැර ගැනීම් වලින් තොරව බලහත්කාරයෙන් තොරව ඒ පවුල් 350ම අපි නිසි නිවස්නයන් වල දෙමටකොඩ ප්‍රදේශයේ උදා වෙන නව නගරේ අපි පදිංචි කරලා තියෙනවා. ඒ අනුව බේරේ වැව වටේ තිබෙන ඉඩම් අක්කර 200කට අධික ප්‍රමාණයක් විවිධ ආයතන වලට අයිති ප්‍රධාන වශයෙන් වරාය අධිකාරියට ඒවා ඉදිරි කාලෙදී ප්‍රධාන ව්‍යාපාරික මධ්‍යස්ථානයේ හැටියට දියුණු කරන්න අපි බලාපොරොත්තු වෙනවා. රටේ ප්‍රධාන ආර්ථිකය ගොඩනගන ප්‍රධාන මර්මස්ථානයේ බවට පත් වෙනවා. මේ බේරේ වැවේ මේ කොටසත් අනික් කොටසත් දෙකම අපි විවෘත කරනවා. වරාය නගරයට අපි පළවෙනි පියවර හැටියට ඉදිරි කාලෙදී නාවික හමුදාවේ උදව් ඇතුව මූලික ව්‍යාපෘතියක් හැටියට ඒ දුම්රිය ස්ථානයේ ඉඳන් මහරෝහලට සෙනග ගෙනියන බෝට්ටු සේවයක් ඇති කරනවා.
ඉස්සර නම් විවෘත කරනකොට මේ උත්සවයකට මේකට ගියේ දැන් මිලියන් 400ක් විතර මම හිතන්නේ ඒත් මිලියන් 200ක් 250ක්වත් වියදම් කරනවා ඒ උත්සවයට. ඉතින් ඇත්තෙන්ම දැන් මේකට උත්සවවලට 7-5ක්වත් වියදම් කරලා නැහැ. රජය මුදල් අර පරිස්සමෙන් කළමනාකරණය කිරීමේදී අනවශ්‍ය මුදල් වැය කිරීම තොරව අත්‍යවශ්‍ය දේට පමණක් මුදල් වැය කරලා මේ කටයුතු සිද්ධ කරන්නේ. ඒ නිසා අද සිට මේ සාමාන්‍ය ජනතාවට ඕනෑම කෙනෙකුට විවෘතයි මේ ප්‍රදේශය.
2 new state ministers and 5 new deputy ministers were sworn before the president today, and the ministerial portfolios were handed over to 5 backbenchers of the United National Party and 2 parliamentarians from the United People's Freedom Alliance. With these appointments, the number of ministers of the current government increased to 86.
The new state ministers and the deputy ministers were sworn in this morning at the Presidential Secretariat. 5 backbenchers of the United National Party were given ministerial portfolios. Accordingly, Ranjit Aluvihare was sworn in as the State Minister of Tourism Development and Christian Religious Affairs, while Lucky Jayawardena was sworn in as the State Minister of Hill Country, New Villages, Infrastructure and Community Development. Ajit Manna Peruma was appointed as the Deputy Minister of Environment, while Edward Gunasekara was sworn in as the Deputy Minister of Internal Affairs and Wayamba Development. Nalin Bandara Jayamaha, in the meantime, is the Deputy Minister of Public Administration and Management and Law and Order. Apart from the above, 2 nationalist parliamentarians also were sworn in as Deputy Ministers. Accordingly, Angajan Ramanathan was sworn in as the Deputy Minister of Agriculture, while Kader Mastan is appointed as the Deputy Minister of Rehabilitation, Resettlement, Northern Development and Hindu Religious Affairs. With these appointments, the number of ministers of the current government amount to 86 with 42 ministers, 22 state ministers, 22 deputy ministers, including the President and the Prime Minister.
නැහැ. ඒ කියන්නේ මේ විරෝධතාව අවසන් කරන්න දීපු පත්තිමන් නෙමෙයි නියෝජ්‍ය අමාත්‍යවරු දරපු කණ්ඩායමක් අස් වෙලා ගිය හින්දා ඒකේ අවස්ථාව පිරෙව්වා මිසක් නැතුව වෙන ප්‍රශ්නයක් හින්දා නෙමෙයි.
When Aditharana questioned the Secretary to the President, Austin Fernando, whether Matra District Parliamentarian Buddhika Pathirana is given a post of Deputy Minister, he also ensured that he is named for one position and he is to swear in once he returns to the country. According to political sources, he will be vested with the position of Deputy Minister of Industry and Commerce.
UNP media spokesperson Minister Harin Fernandez says that in order to achieve a sense of mature democracy in the country, citizens should move away from a mentality used to dictatorship. He expressed these views at a media briefing in Colombo today.
When we did build a coalition government, people see us as a weak government when we do criticize our own two parties. And we do also criticize the president or the prime minister within our own government. People see it as a weakness in the government, but it is not. And even if you see social media, you're allowed to criticize. I mean, it got out of control at certain points. So therefore, they would always think this is a mature democracy, but this is a weak government. But if you really analyze it, this is what exactly 2015 January 8, what we really required. We wanted a government where people had more voice. Let's say the president or the prime minister or the cabinet or me make a decision and the people are not happy or the community is not happy. They should be able to make a voice and make a change. Isn't that mature democracy? But how the opposition, who were not used to it, who were in the Rajapaksa regime, always thought that as a weak thing because we were not dictators. Because Sri Lanka is still used to a dictator mentality, and that's why they think even Gotabaya is the best dictator to come and take this country forward. And that's what they're trying to build. They think Sri Lanka to go forward, the best way is the dictatorship. My God, that would be the disaster, the detrimental thing that could happen to the country if a dictator comes in at this era. But this is an era where a lot of democracies are emerging. Sri Lanka may be small, but I think going forward we should also adapt to those things.
Chairman of the Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna, Professor G.L. Peiris, today revealed of 3 priorities that will be the focus of a government that will be established under the purview of former President Mahinda Rajapaksa. Talking about these priorities to First at 9 after a media briefing in Colombo today, Professor Peiris said that bringing back former Central Bank Governor Arjuna Mahendran to the country will be a first.
Mr. D. Gunasekara, who is respected by all of us, the former chairman of COPE, has stated that Parliament is facing a real crisis of confidence. He has said that at no other time has the stature of Parliament diminished to this extent. Then we have the Vice President of the Sri Lanka Freedom Party, the Honorable Dilan Pereira, saying that Parliament can no longer be called the Parliament of Sri Lanka. It must be renamed the Perpetual Treasuries Parliament. So those are the depths to which we have sunk. It is ridiculous to have people sitting on COPE and investigating perpetual treasuries when they themselves have accepted money from perpetual treasuries. And we would like to say that in the near future, when a government of President Mahinda Rajapaksa is formed, there are 3 things to which we will give priority. One is we will bring back Arjuna Mahendran. This government has no sincere intention of doing so. The longer Arjuna Mahendran stays in Singapore, the better for him. We will bring him back by carrying out the required negotiations with Singapore. Secondly, we will certainly cleanse the composition of COPE. There are members of the present Parliament whose reputations are not tarnished, who have not accepted money from perpetual treasuries or from Arjuna Aloysius. Those are the people who should constitute COPE. And thirdly, we will give priority to recovering for the employees' provident fund. The money which has been plundered from it, that is an urgent necessity, and it is required to protect the working population of this country when they reach the age of retirement. We shall therefore give it undoubted priority.
State Minister of International Trade Sujiva Senasinghe claims that despite his innocence over allegations connecting him to controversial Perpetual Treasuries Limited, he is willing to step down from his position as a parliamentarian if the Speaker requests him to do so. The State Minister made the remark during TV Derana's political program 360 last night.
ඔබ හෝ ඔබව නියෝජනය කරන අනිත් කණ්ඩායමුණත් හොයන්නේ නැද්ද මේ මුදල් කොහෙන්ද එන්නේ කියලා?
ඔය චෙක් පත් මට ලැබුණේව නෙමෙයි. කොළඹ මගේ යාළුවෝ පිරිසක් ඡන්දය කරව මම පැනලා යන්නේ නැහැ ප්‍රශ්නේ. ඒ පිරිස මගේ ඡන්ද ව්‍යාපාරය යම් කොටසක් කරා. ඒ පිරිස අදාළ කරගත් ව්‍යාපාරයකින් යන්නේ මේ ගත්ත මුදල්. එහෙම චෙක් කරත් ඇයි නොගන්න හේතුව ඔබතුමා මට කියන්නේ?
හරිම සරල. දැන් ඔබේ ආරක්ෂකයින් අපරාධ පරීක්ෂණ දෙපාර්තමේන්තුවට දීලා තියෙන කට උත්තර වලට අනුව ඔවුන් කියන්නේ මේ මුදල් කෑෂ් චෙක් මාරු කරලා මුදල් ගෙන දුන්නේ ඔබට කියලා.
නෑ නෑ එහෙම නෑ. ඒකේ තියෙන්නේ කැම්පේන් ටීම් එකේ හිටපු කැම්පේන් මැනේජර් ලබා දුන්නා.
තමන්ගේ කැම්පේන් එකේ අයවැය කොච්චර මුදල් එනවද කොච්චර මුදල් යනවද කියන කාරණේ දන්නේ නැද්ද?
අපි එච්චර එහෙම හොයන්නේ නැහැ. ඡන්දිකදී අපි බලන්නේ නැහැ.
මෙන්ඩිස් ආයතනය මුදල් දුන්නා. ඒක පර්පචුවල් කියන්නේ PTL එකත් එක්ක තියෙන සම්බන්ධතාවය ගැන ඔබ දැනන් හිටියේ නැහැ.
පළවෙනි එක දැනන් හිටියේ නැහැ. මගේ මිත්‍රයන් කොහොමවත් දන්නේ නැහැ. මම දන්නවා නම් ඔබතුමාට තියෙන ප්‍රශ්නේ මොකක්ද? PTL එක හරි මෙන්ඩිස් හරි වරදකරුවෙක් කියලා කොහෙද සඳහන් කරලා තියෙන්නේ?
වෘත්තීය ආකෘතියක් තියෙනවා.
Let me speak. That is you are not the person to decide that. I will decide that. I am the person who is here before you. You are asking questions. I will answer.
විනාඩි දෙක
for
දැන්
God's
ලබා
sake,
ගන්න.
let me answer.
විනාඩි දෙක දැන් ලබා ගන්න.
හරිද?
දැන් ලබා ගන්න.
බලන්න ඔබ පාවිච්චි කරන ඔබේ ශබ්දකෝෂය ඔබ නීතිඥවරයෙක් හැටියට සහ ඔබ පාර්ලිමේන්තු නියෝජනය කරන කෙනෙක් හැටියට ඔබ පාවිච්චි කරන වචන.
you all talk. ඔයගොල්ලන් කතා කරන්න. Thank you very much. ඔයගොල්ලන් කතා කරන්න. ඔයගොල්ලන් දෙන්න හොඳ ප්‍රෝග්‍රෑම් එකක් කරනවා. කතා කරලා මුතුමාලගේ අදහස් දක්වන්න. Thank you very much for inviting.
ඔබතුමා කලබල වෙලා කියන එක අපිට
නෑ මට කලබල නෑ. ඕන ප්‍රශ්නයක් මගෙන් අහන්න. මට උත්තර දෙන්න අවස්ථාවක් දෙන්න. මගේ කිසිම සම්බන්ධයක් නෑ මේකට. හැබැයි කතානායකතුමා ඉල්ලීමක් කරනවා නම් මට අයින් වෙන්න කියලා මං සදාචාරාත්මකව මගේ සම්බන්ධයක් නොතිබුණත් ඒ තීන්දුව පිළිගන්න මං කැමතියි.
Well, State Minister Palitha Rangabandara's son, Yashoda Rangabandara, who was arrested in connection with a traffic accident, has been further remanded until the 14th of June by the Chilao Magistrates Court. He was arrested by officers of the Arachikattua police on the 8th of June on charges of drunk driving and misuse of public property while receiving treatment at the Sri Jawadanapura Hospital. Well, with that story, let's take a look at a few other news from across Sri Lanka.
Fishermen in the southern province engaged in protest today as well, claiming to reduce the price of kerosene, which was earlier at 44 rupees. The Minister of Fisheries, Vijit Vijayamuni Zoisa, however, said that the cabinet approval was given to reduce the price of a litre of kerosene to 70 rupees from 101 rupees with effect from midnight tonight. Minister of Postal Services Abdul Halim says that necessary measures will be taken to provide solutions for the issues of postal workers and ask them to report to work. However, the strike launched by the Postal Services trade unions yesterday continued today as well. A protest held in front of the Jayala Divisional Secretariat today, opposing the incident of former Minister Felix Pereira threatening its chairman. Representatives of the local authorities of the Sri Lanka Podujana Perumuna engaged in the protest. The new building of the Angkumura Divisional Hospital, inclusive of a new OPD, intensive care unit and medicine issuing unit, built at a cost of 39 million rupees, was declared open by Minister M.H.A. Halim.
You are watching Sri Lanka's award-winning news channel, Derana 24/7.
And in tonight's business news, Minister of Tourism Development John Amarathunga says that the workforce of the tourism industry is insufficient to meet the demands of the industry. Addressing the graduation ceremony of the Institute of Tourism and Hotel Management yesterday, he further said that the younger generation should be encouraged to pursue a career in the tourism industry rather than waiting for public sector employment after their higher education.
The 39th graduation ceremony of the Sri Lanka Institute of Tourism and Hotel Management was held in BMICH last night under the patronage of Minister of Tourism Development John Amarathunga.
The demand that we are going to have for the industry services, even though you are putting out 6,000 for a year, that is not sufficient, may not compensate the demand that is there for the new establishments that are coming up. We have to double up the training program. I was always requesting the chairman to open up hotel schools in the outstation. Very unfortunate. I find it very difficult to attract the young people to come and join this industry, to get the training for this industry. All these graduates who are here today, who received awards, have been swallowed up by the industry. Before they pass out, they have been invited. There is a demand for employment, for trained personnel in order to serve in their hotel. Therefore, my earnest request is for the younger generation not to look for government assignments or government jobs, not to waste their time, the amount of suffering they have once they get a government job. At the moment, we are at the third place, very close to the second place in the foreign exchange earnings. I think last year we ended up with almost $3 billion. This year, we hope to go up at least up to 4 billion. Therefore, this is one area without importing raw material to earn sufficient foreign exchange for the welfare and the benefit of the country.
JVP Politburo member Vasantha Samarasinghe says that the Singapore-Sri Lanka Free Trade Agreement includes several clauses that are illegal and should not be passed in Parliament. These views were expressed at a media briefing in Colombo today.
මේ ගිවිසුම පිටු 1083ක් තියෙනවා. මං කැට තියලා කියනවා අපි අභියෝග කරනවා කැබිනට් මණ්ඩලයේ කැමතිවරයෙක්වත් මේ කියවලා නැහැ. ඒ විතරක් නෙමෙයි අපේ රටේ මේ අමාත්‍යංශයේ ඉන්න නිලධාරීන් මේ ගිවිසුම සැබෑ පරිශීලනයක් කරලා නැහැ. අපි විශ්වාස කරනවා නීතිපති දෙපාර්තමේන්තුවේ විමර්ශන එන්න පෙර ගිවිසුම අත්සන් කරලා තියෙනවා. මේ ගිවිසුම නීති විරෝධී වෙන කාරණා කීපයකුත් මේ ගිවිසුම ඇතුලේ තියෙනවා. කියන්නේ මේ ගිවිසුම අත්සන් කරනකොට ප්‍රපාතන විරෝධී ප්‍රතිතෝලන බදු පනතත් ආරක්ෂණ පියවර පනතත් මේකට අනුගත කරගන්නවා කියලා මේ ගිවිසුමේ තියෙනවා මේක ඇතුලේ. ප්‍රපාතන විරෝධී ප්‍රතිතෝලන බදු පනත සම්මත වෙන්නේ මාර්තු මාසේ 19. ජනවාරි 23 අත්සන් කරනකොට මේ ගිවිසුම එහෙම පනතක් පාර්ලිමේන්තුවේ සම්මත වෙලා නැහැ. ලෝක වෙළඳ සංවිධානයේ උමනාව ඉටු කරන්න තමයි මේක අත්සන් කරලා තියෙන්නේ. ආර්ථිකයක් හැටියට ශක්තිමත් කරන්න නෙමෙයි. මේ ගිවිසුමත් එක්ක සියලු රටවල් වලට අපේ රටේ වෙළඳාම නිදහස් කිරීම සඳහා ගිවිසුම් අත්සන් කිරීමට දැන් බැඳී ඉන්නේ. මේකේ කියන මේ ගිවිසුමේ ඩියුරේෂන් එක පිළිබඳව ඉන්ඩෙෆිනිට්. ඇයි එහෙම වචනයක් දාන්නේ? මේක පාර්ලිමේන්තුවේ සම්මත කරාට පස්සේ මේක අවසන් කරන්න බෑ අපිට. දැන් මේකෙන් එළියට එන්න නම් පාර්ලිමේන්තුවේදී මේක පරාජය කරන්න ඕනේ.
And in world economics, IMF Managing Director Christine Lagarde says the risk to global economy are rising as major industrial nations sharpen threats of a trade war. Meanwhile, Director General of the World Trade Organization, Roberto Azevedo, says the trade tensions could risk a major economic impact. These remarks follow a chaotic two-day meeting of the Group of Seven in which President Donald Trump shocked fellow leaders with his disregard for US allies.
I started off by saying that the sun is still shining, not just in Berlin, but on the global economy. And our forecast for growth for the moment is not modified at 3.9% this year and 3.9% next year. But the clouds on the horizon that we have signalled about 6 months ago are getting darker by the day, and I was going to say by the weekend. Some have to do with financial tightening. Some have to do with the risk of capital flows movement out of the emerging market economies. But the biggest and darkest cloud that we see is the deterioration in confidence that is prompted by attempts to challenge the way in which trade has been conducted, in which relationships have been handled, and the way in which multilateral organizations have been operating.
I think the rising trade tensions that we see before us, they risk a major economic impact, undermining the strongest sustainable period of trade growth since the financial crisis. But more than that, also the systemic effects could be very damaging, risking a long-term impact on the global economy.
And here in Colombo, shares fell for a fifth straight session today to hit their lowest closing level in nearly 6 months as investors sold telecom and diversified shares. The Your Share Price Index ended 0.06% weaker at 6,348.53. The index fell 0.7% last week, its third straight weekly fall. Turnover stood at 876.4 million rupees, less than this year's daily average of 969.4 million rupees. We have Imeshi Fernando from the Colombo Stock Exchange for more details.
The market capitalization at the end of the day was 2,964.71 billion rupees. Today's foreign purchases were 555.44 million rupees and foreign sales were 588.42 million rupees. There were 3 crosses today and the crossing turnover was 117.34 million rupees.
And the Sri Lankan rupee was quoted marginally stronger against the US dollar in early trading today, despite exporter holdbacks. The rupee was quoted at 159.75 to 160 against the US dollar in the spot market after opening marginally stronger at 159.40 to 80 rupees. We take a look at how the rupee traded against other major currencies during the day now.
Sri Lanka's premier news channel, Other Derana 24/7.
In sports tonight, former cricketer Roshan Mahanama says that he will consider joining the Sri Lanka cricket if he is invited by the highest place of the country. He made these remarks yesterday after a function held in Colombo.
විවිධ මත තියෙනවා විවිධ දේවල් කතා කරනවා ඒ කතා කරන දේවල් විශ්වාස කරන්න එපා මම ඉදිරිපත් වෙන්නේ කිසිම දෙයකට මට අවංක වාතාවරණයක් නැතුව මට වැඩ කරන්න බෑ හැබැයි මට ආරාධනාවක් ලැබුණොත් රටේ ඉහළම තැනින් මේ ගැන කල්පනා කරලා බලලා අපිට යම් දෙයක් කරන්නයි කියලා ඒ අවස්ථාවේදී මම කල්පනා කරනවා මොකද මට යුතුයකමක් තියෙනවා ක්‍රිකට් ක්‍රීඩා කරපු පුද්ගලයෙක් හැටියට අවුරුදු 20 ගානක් ක්‍රීඩා නියලී ඉඳලා මගේ අත්දැකීම් දන්වලා යම් තීරණ ගන්න පුළුවන් මම ඉදිරියට එන්නේ මේ දැන් වාතාවරණය වෙනස් වෙලා අපි දැන් අවුරුදු 20කට ඉස්සෙල්ලත් මේ ගැන තමයි කතා කරේ අපි එනවා නම් permanent solutions දාන්න තමයි එන්න ඕනේ తాවකාලික දේවල් කරලා මං හිතන්නේ මේකෙන් වැඩක් ඇති වෙයි කියලා මොකද මේ ප්‍රශ්න අපි තව අවුරුදු 20කදී කතා කරන්න
Sri Lanka's #1 news channel, Other Derana 24/7.
A very good evening and welcome to Forecast First. Your temperatures are to vary between 21 to 34 degrees Celsius with the highest temperature expected in the Batiklo district. The lowest temperature can of course be expected in the Nuwara district. Looking at your rain forecast now, there will be light showers particularly in the northwestern, western, southern and central provinces. But overall there will be sunny weather conditions in many parts of the country tomorrow. That's it from your weather center tonight. Up next is your city by city forecast.
As we wrap up tonight's edition of First at 9 on Other Derana 24/7, we'd like to leave you with some visuals. And tonight we take you to Batiklo, the former capital of the Eastern Province, which is a major commercial city at present. Rich with a multicultural ethnicity, the town has ample scope for thirst tourists from across the world. Hope you enjoy these visuals. Have a pleasant evening. Good night.
Bringing you the news and information 24 hours a day. This is Sri Lanka's premier news channel, Other Derana 24/7.